Fuzzy dice? Check. Whacker-Con bobblehead doll? Check. Diesel incense? Check. Cool. Look at me. I'm a taxi cab driver. Go down the street, scope potential riders. Hey girl, where you going? What's up, dude?
Alright, what is going on? We are live with episode... What is this? Is this 25? 26? I don't count these. That I probably should. Welcome to Fuzzy Dice, your DM show here on the Exploding Dice channel, where we're live every week with awesome D&D talk, great guests, and I don't know, just a good old time. So I will introduce my guests in just 1 second as I fix the volume. But before we dive right into that, I do actually. You know what? No, I don't, because that was something I needed to do last week. So I thought I had an important announcement. I actually don't. So instead, you guys can see I have two guests on either side of me. We're gonna start on this side, which I always have to figure out because my camera flips it. With my guest on that side of me, I got Ben Dobyns, the executive producer from Dead Gentleman Productions. What's going on, Ben?
Hey, I'm actually the guy from Zombie Orpheus, and our other guest.
I knew I was gonna mix something up.
It's man.
It's, you know what? It's like I said. It's because the camera flips it, and that's what I'm blaming it on. So it totally was not my fault. And then on the other side of me, on that side, I've got Don Early, who is the real producer for Dead Gentleman Productions. What's going on, man?
Yo. I mean, technically Ben's a dead gentleman too, but you know, I'm the exec from DG and he's the exec from Zoe, so it's all confusing. You got it all right.
All right. And why don't you guys, before we get into our little, our mishmash of topics and things that we're going to discuss today, why don't you guys tell some of the people who are joining us in chat a little bit about what you guys, what it is that your companies kind of produce, because I know collectively you guys have put together I think some of the movies and things that have become pretty much mandatory watching at my my D&D tables.
Well, that's awesome. Well, gosh, 1999 is when we got together as a group and made a feature film together, because apparently we don't know how to do shorts first. and eventually we ended up making The Gamers, the 45-minute film that sort of took the gaming world by storm. And we've just been kind of hammering at that better and better, and expanding our goals and our the projects that we want to do. Ben Dobyns started with Dead Gentleman and then spun off and created Zombie Orpheus with the awesome creator funded fan funded. I'm messing it up. Sorry, you talk.
The creator distributed fan funded model.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah. Yeah, basically we just said, screw it, we're going to release everything online under a Creative Commons license, and if you like it, you can send us money so that we can produce the next thing, and if you don't like it, then we'll producing. And
right.
So that's been way better for us than Hollywood distribution or trying to fight piracy or anything. Now it's just take our stuff, share it, enjoy it, and if you want to see more, you know what to do.
And for the most part, we really encouraged piracy for the sheer fact of, getting people to know about who we are. And then, of course, that sort of stops when if we find people are making money off of it and we are not. That's when the fun ends on that regard. But over the years, gosh, Ben, we've made The Gamers Darkness Rising. With Zoe, we made The Gamers Hands of Fate. Humans Households and Natural One. Um, Journey, you guys were all up on the Journey Quest.
Journey Quest. We have a new show called Strowlers that's going to be coming out soon. Attacking the Darkness, a feature film that we just did. Dark Dungeons.
Hmm.
There's been a whole lot going on.
Yeah, yeah. And now we're coming back to the Gamers again with the Gamers the series. We've gentlemen have been working jointly together to co-produce this new series, which starts to bring all this story that we've been telling over the years together in a single connected plot.
Yeah, man. I mean, you got, like I said, uh, I don't even remember when it was, but it was a lot. It was probably back when I was in college, when when I was playing D&D. Like I got back into D&D with some people I knew. I used to go to my friend had an apartment in the East Village, and we like this horrible little place, and we used to go down there and like play D&D on his floor. And it was probably around that time that I'm trying to remember where I first found it, but I don't like. I can't remember exactly how I first saw it, but somehow I ended up with a copy of the Gamers. I think it was the first one, and like it was one of those things where it's like I assume it was probably the same thing going through most of the people who made its minds when they made it. Was like, you know, we had a D&D movie, like it was someone made one, and it kind of did all of us a disservice. And so, you know, I guess they kind of got together and put together a movie that reflected, in a little bit of an exaggerated way, what really went on around a table. And I think since then, like the second movie has probably become one of the most quotable things in the hobby.
Yeah.
We're pretty proud of that one.
Yeah, it's no, it's definitely funny. And by the way, if you guys in chat have not seen it, which I'm assuming some of you probably, or most of you probably have, but if you have not, I highly suggest it. It's great watching. It's very, very funny. The actors are very good, and you know, it's a lot of D&D humor that I think everyone can kind of relate to in some way, whether it be, you know, the characters that are representations of people we all know, or just like saying like, oh yeah, I've had moments like that.
What's cool to me about the Gamers series is we've had, you know, like every year we go to Gen Con, and every year we have more gamers approach us and talk about what these movies mean to them. You know, I've had people come up and say, you know, this movie got me out of my depression. It convinced me to pursue my dreams as an artist, and now I'm creating art for professionally for D&D books and modules. We've had multiple fans who've said we got married because of this movie. You know, it's just stuff that we never would have expected, but because it's so personal to so many people, when they share it, it creates those kinds of connections.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's again, it's always, I think it's always fun when you kind of like it's always interesting when you get together with someone, especially when you're meeting with people who, you know, maybe, you know, you know, okay, this person's into role-playing games a little bit, right? But I don't really know what they're like. And then, like, as soon as they're like, oh, I'm gonna hide behind the mound of dead bards, it's like, okay, I have a pretty good gauge of where they are, you know?
Mm.
It's funny. Again, they're great movies, and I suggest everyone run them. Here, by the way, because I know very, very little about how the whole licensing thing works. You guys have actually put all of your movies on YouTube for free.
Yeah.
Yep. Which by the way, I think is really, really cool. So if you guys have not watched it, you should definitely go check out the entire series on YouTube. Like, I think they run commercials on them.
No.
Or they're just broken up into parts.
They're broken into parts. Yeah, we don't run commercials either.
That's awesome. But with that kind of distribution, like not something I'm just spitballing here because I'm interested in how you guys and how you guys decided on kind of bringing your creations to the masses. Obviously, Journey Quest is on YouTube too. Like all this stuff is free for people. Say someone wanted to take the movie and say like, I want to have a movie night with a bunch of people. Could they run it on like a live stream or something?
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool.
You don't need our permission, folks. You want to screen our films, you want to have a movie night, go nuts. All we ask is you just don't charge admission, just have fun.
Can they charge admission in like the form of beer?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean that's a form of profit, I think.
Right. Highly encouraged in watching our films.
No, I think that's really cool. And actually that kind of brings me to another thing I wanted to talk about. By the way, thank you so much, Elgonda, for following. Welcome to the madness, my friend, and may Dice Thulu always embrace you. No, what I wanted to talk about a little bit was the Journey Quest series too, because that I watched. What season are you guys? Are you guys still on the third season, or have you done the next one?
Third, yeah.
Season 3 is in post-production right now. We had a Kickstarter at the beginning of the year to fund, so that is coming.
Yeah, if you guys haven't watched it, Journey Quest 1 and 2 are they're really funny series. They're not exactly connected to the gamers, but I think they share a lot of the actors. Though the thing that's interesting to me was like, because I watched the production diaries. They're very, very low budget series, but they're hilariously funny, and they kind of they put a lot of work in, and it's I don't know, like I enjoy kind of the storytelling just in bringing fantasy movie making and stuff to to people who may not like, because I can definitely see the series sort of inspiring people who may not have said like, oh, I can't really do comedy or anything like this, like I don't have any money, I don't know how to do it. But you guys are sort of putting these shows on and making them look really, really good. Have you kind of have you been in touch with, or have you seen any of the other sort of D&D shows that are popping up on YouTube and stuff now that are almost, I know a few of them are almost certainly inspired from, at least the creation of them has been inspired from the movies that you guys made and the shows that you guys put out?
We've actually become friends with the creators of some of these shows. It's an awesome community out there of people who are doing these. Whether we're talking like from 10 years ago, Gamers with a Z, which was made by this real filmmakers. You look at what Dom Zook is doing with Saving Throw. There's a big action list. And there's some crap out there, people who are really innovating and doing amazing work, and we have a lot of fun watching what they're doing.
I really appreciate the Legend of the Lich Lord series. That was a lot of fun. I'm trying to remember, is it One Hit Die Productions? Is that them?
I think so.
I know that name. I know that the name is. Yeah, they're the ones that with the female necromancer.
Yeah, they're out of Canada, and really fun series, and I was really impressed with the production quality, and the story was a lot of fun to follow. So, I met them at Gen Con this year, and that's a lot of fun. And I'm really excited about shows like Critical Role and Harmon Quest and a lot of these other mainstream or bigger shows. It's really fun to see this subject and this hobby that we've been so in love with kind of take off a little bit more mainstream, and and it's inspiring to see.
Yeah, those that you literally you just reminded me of that show, and I was trying to remember the name of it because I had seen almost all of those episodes on YouTube, the Lich Lord show, and it was like I thought it was really really good, and then but I wasn't doing anything at the time, so it kind of like I watched it and then I completely forgot about it, and I'm like, oh, I should definitely get in touch with them. No, Saving Throw show. I've had them. I've had Dom Zook on the talk show. He's an awesome guy, and I love the production that he does. With his gaming channel, it's a lot of fun. If you guys haven't watched it, oh, go ahead.
He's been a friend of ours since college.
Yeah, he told me that on the show.
Well, yeah, he's awesome. I love what they're doing, and I love working with Dom. He's great.
Yeah, and also I'm actually you guys may or may not have heard of them, but this is actually kind of an exclusive announcement for the people in chat, but it won't be that exclusive in a couple days. The next, I believe, next week I have my guest for Fuzzy Dice, but also that Thursday I'm gonna be hanging out with the producers and the creators of the Experience Point show, which is a fantastic D&D show that's on YouTube. It got kickstarted and they're on YouTube now. And they're going through their series. It's very, very well acted, and the cast is great. And they're going to be coming here, and we're going to be hanging out and debuting one of their episodes.
Sweet.
Which I think you guys should, in chat, you should definitely hang on for. But yeah, they're if you guys haven't talked to them, I would suggest you do, because they're really cool dudes. And I don't know, I like, I like that, like you said, that it's kind of a community of people that, that come together, because I think like there's such a craving in the hobby for good entertainment. Like, I want to go to my movie rack, or I want to go to YouTube and I want to watch something that's relevant to me. That's not like, yeah, I could go watch, there's 1,000 people doing actual plays and podcasts and stuff, and they're all great, but it's like there's a special place, I think, there for like a show or a movie that is directly tied into the hobby. I think it's a niche that everyone kind of craves, that kind of entertainment. And yeah, it's been great. So you guys also just obviously you just kickstarted the Gamers series. So what are you kind of planning on doing with that? I haven't actually had a chance to catch up with any of the promotional material. But except for the fact that you're bringing back all the original actors.
Yeah, the concept is that these guys have been stuck in our world, New Moon, Nimble, Rogar, Magellan, for the last 15 years. And we went back and we did a little season 0 to kind of bridge the gap, show where each one of them has been. And as we get into this new 45-minute episode, basically going to find out what happens when they finally find a new gaming group who's able to play a new adventure with them in their quest to finally get home and to defeat the Shadow.
Yeah,
so we're taking the characters from the original Gamers that we did, back in 2001, 2002. And if you haven't seen it, spoiler alert, but this whole series is sort of taking and moving this along and building a brand new story, like Ben said, out of what's happened, and then also how does it tie in with eventually Darkness Rising, Hands of Fate, and how does it all kind of come together. And so we're going to explore a lot of gaming humor. We're going to kind of go a little old school with trying to rock first edition AD&D style gaming with mashing up various other things. It's going to be a lot of fun.
The other cool part about it is it's a chance for us to play with a different genre. We're taking a big inspiration from heist films and from the TV show Leverage, but with these fantasy characters who have a completely different perspective on justice, on combat, on how to find it, who are trying to pull off these heists set in our modern world through the gaming mechanic. It's just ridiculous fun.
Yeah, I was gonna say Leverage or the better version, Hustle, the British show.
That's a good one too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
this is trying to, if you can imagine, just trying to deal with weird situations through gaming, and like, what does that look like, and what is the absurdity that happens in that, especially coming from fantasy characters who are now here. It's great.
yeah. I was really into, and obviously it's a little bit of a spoiler. I remember back in the day it was really funny, the way the first Gamers movie ended, but it's like it's interesting that rather than just do kind of leave that as a very weird paradox, you decided to actually take that and move on with it. I do have a question though. Does the movie ever address how the two got together? Like, were they always? Okay, so the characters, right? They kill the dude and they go through the door, and then they're in the dormitory. But how did the door lead to the dormitory? Was it a portal, or were they just always there?
Oh,
Got it.
so yeah, in the previous scene where you have the shadow, they're in the shadow's chamber there as they discover a secret door.
Yeah.
That door is a portal, and they go through a portal and enter our world, and they come out into this, dorm room hallway. And so it's not super clear. I think you're right, but that was 2001, and special effects were hard.
No, I'm like, the reason that I bring it up only because it was funny how sort of seamless it was. Like, there wasn't actually any indication that it was a thing. They were literally door, and now so it's like, wait, were they always like? Were they just dudes dressing up? Like, I don't know. That I think that would probably be funny too. But no, it's interesting. I can't wait till the series starts. It looks like it's gonna be good stuff. So tell me, because I know the people who are hanging out probably are itching to know, the stuff the films that you guys have made, both the gamers, the Shadowrun film, or the Vampire and Shadowrun films, and the series and Journey Quest and stuff. Are those like? Do you guys? I'm assuming that you guys all have a lot of gaming groups that go on between like the production teams and the cast members and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, a lot of us really are gamers, and I mean, that's how this all got started. In fact, I met most of these people in a gaming group, and so, I mean, first and foremost, we were gamers, and it was really, Matt Vansel got sick, like with mono, and so a couple of the guys decided to like go borrow VHS camcorders from the library and shoot in order, shot by shot, some kind of little ransom video for this little stuffed animal, just kind of just a stupid sort of thing to cheer him up, and well, Matt's a writer, and when he got better, that inspired him, and he grabbed the only filmmaker he actually knew who had actually done a feature film before, and that was Ben Dobbins. And we sat down and we created a feature film called Demon Hunter on campus. And it's just kind of a crazy thing. So we all sort of, Ben made us all filmmakers in some way.
So
But
do
we
you
were
guys?
gamers first, and I mean, to this day, so Chris Dupenthaler, the guy who plays Mark the Red in the Gamers films, and Mark, because he's really creative that way. Uh, he's run. In fact, we're still trying to get together and resurrect a more than 10-year, 12-year long campaign. Started in second edition, went all the way up to fourth edition. Now we're going back to 3.5. Um, it's insane. I mean, this group, we are diehard gamers. I mean, that campaign's minimum 24th level at this point. Um, Ben ran a Unity RPG session for quite a while, and Steve Wolbrecht, the guy who plays Nodwick, and he does all of our music, our composition. He's our composer. He's run D&D for I don't know how many years, as well. We've got an ongoing campaign with him, and so yeah, we're all gamers for the most part, and we bring in new people with the cast and the crew and stuff, and find out, I mean, a lot of this, what we do attracts gamers too, obviously, and what's kind of cool is at the same time we get to introduce gaming to some who maybe knew about it but never tried it before, and that might be the case with our new cast that we have for the Gamers Episode 1, and we get to with hopefully Matt Vansel as the GM. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine. Like, the the thing is, like, I think we all kind of are, we're all kind of at that point. Like, even if you go back to the earliest stuff with D&D, like, everything that was written for the original first edition was inspired by the games that, you know, Gary Gygax played with his friends. And it's like, I'm assuming that a lot of the stuff that you guys end up writing, or a lot of the humor, the scenes that you come up with, the ideas of what you're going to produce next, probably are born somewhere in a session somewhere.
Oddly enough, I don't know that that's specifically true. Sometimes we do use gaming, create some sort of improv ideas and whatnot, but there's not a lot of we don't sit down and game in order to think of ideas for a particular film or whatnot oftentimes.
I did one
But
project like that.
okay, sure,
I spent a year gaming the Strahlers pilot.
got it.
Got people together and played the entire script as a campaign, and it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, I think for the gamers and whatnot, in that series, it's just all the years of gaming and sort of plucking out those moments that we all identify with, and having it find a home in the story, and a lot of kind of the process, I think.
So like, what, kind of moving a little bit away from general filmmaking stuff. What do you guys play nowadays? Like, what are your campaigns like? Do you have anything that's ongoing? Do you have anything that's particularly interesting? Going on at your game tables.
Ben, you go first.
I've the more time I spend making these movies, the less time I have to game. As it is, I generally get to game once a year when I run a couple of long gaming sessions at Gen Con. I'm fitting in board games when I can. I'm working through Pandemic Legacy right now, which I love.
Cindy and I and Jeremy and Katie did.
Yeah, I've been speaking of, I've been meaning to, like, I wasn't able to get out this year, but I'm thinking, I probably won't be. I'll probably have to be at Gen Con next year, just because by that point, so many people are yelling at me to take off work and finally make it.
Right.
It's I feel kind of depressed knowing that, like, I live in New York and we don't actually have any good gaming conventions here. Like, they're all somewhere else that requires a lot of traveling. And I think I definitely, you know, there's a I've never actually gotten to, like, I've never gotten to go to Gen Con and run like a tournament game or something. Like, I feel like that's something I'll probably have to do at some point. But yeah, you're definitely right about the you know, about work kind of taking up time and making less time to game, because like I trust me, I understand. I think the only reason right now that I actually get a chance to play D&D is because I chose to make half of my life about broadcasting it. Like, if it weren't for this, like, I'd probably be doing something else, and it would not be providing me any free time.
Totally. Well, it sounds like I'm gaming the most then, and I feel like I'm not gaming very often. But so Steve Wilbrick's running a fourth edition campaign that we get together like about once a quarter, just about, and we play for 10 odd hours on a Saturday. And so that's been kind of ongoing. Chris Dupenthaler, again, Mark the Red. He's in a gaming group every single week on Tuesdays, and tonight is my game. So I'm actually DMing the Demon Hunters role playing game, which is sort of based on Fate Accelerated and Cortex Plus a little bit. It's a lot of fun and really easy. And I'm finding that I'm playing D&D less these days, just again because of the work thing, and I just don't have time anymore to really spend, you know, all the math and all of the research to build a character. And gosh, I feel like last time I played third edition or even fourth edition, it took me, you know, 4 hours just to create like a third level character. You know,
That's because
and
you're
I
playing
just
third
don't.
edition. Second edition is where it's at, man.
Yeah, yeah, with rules that make absolutely no sense.
Second edition the one with you had the skills and the sub skills, and you had to
Oh yeah,
calculate all of them?
yep.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. And fake.
Specialties and
No, I'm lucky enough. Like I said, I mean, I broadcast D&D. We have a game on this. By the way, Saving Throw Show is hanging out in the chat. So hello to Dom and all the guys there. I've kind of become much like them, where they broadcast, I think, 5 days a week of gaming. I have the Sunday show, which is, you know, live. D&D 5th edition was Pathfinder, but now it's 5th edition. Mondays I usually do map making, unless I'm being lazy, and then I don't. And then Tuesdays I have the talk show. Wednesdays I have Call of Cthulhu. Fridays I have another 5e game, and then that's Thursdays. And then Fridays I have my game that's been running for like 3 years. We're playing Pathfinder, and then Saturday I have off. So like my week is completely full, but and I get to play. I thankfully, like I said, I got into this because I absolutely love gaming, and I love talking about it and hanging out and meeting people. I don't have, between that and a full-time job, I have no time for anything else. Like, barely even have time to sleep. So you said that you said that you're doing a little DMing. I'm interested to know, because you mentioned the Demon Hunter RPG. I've hung out and I've talked with quite a few people who've created and kind of worked on different RPG systems. I know everyone has a different kind of theory when it comes to making them. What exactly is that system like?
well, again, it's a Fate hack. I mean, if you're familiar with a Fate RPG, it's a hack of that. It's very rules light, but And so for me, my impetus, again, I'm not a game designer, so I hired Cam Banks to, who helped spearhead Cortex Plus and Marvel Super Heroic. He's over at Atlas Games now. Um, and we brought in Amanda Valentine and some other kind of Fate veterans to help us along and develop something really cool and really streamlined. And the thing that I love about it is it's you don't need any special dice or anything. You can use your polyhedrals. I told Cam I like rolling lots of dice. I don't want to spend 3 hours building a character, and I want to get to playing as soon as possible. And the other thing too is I really like, again, gaming is collaborative storytelling, but I want some kind of mechanical reward system throughout for all the players. I told him basically failing fun.
Mm-hmm.
Make messing up interesting, fun, and not terrible. And so it's very freeform, and the mechanics itself are pretty hackable as far as trying to use other settings. This Demon Hunters is very much like the show Supernatural or the Dresden or something like that, but kind of heavy on the comedy side of things. But you know, Mike Olson, who folks might recognize him from Atomic Robo RPG and a couple other things. He's already hacked our system for play in Star Wars, and so he's created vehicle combat stuff and that sort of thing. It's really simple, really easy to get, and we've never referenced the book once. I talked in about an hour how to play, and it's just been awesome. So
There we go.
oh yeah.
My microphone. I muted my mic so it didn't pick up me typing, which I don't think that even went through. But I don't know. The button wasn't working. No, I'm a dyed in the wool kind of D&D guy. I loved 3 in the sense that I loved 3.5. Like, I understand it was broken, but I got with it. I really liked 4th edition, despite no one else enjoying it. And 5th edition, 5th edition is not doing me wrong. It's working fine. But I like Pathfinder just the same. So I like really crunchy systems. But I've been dedicating a lot of my time during the week to make it sort of forcing myself to test out other games that are completely the opposite. And one of my I played on this channel. I played a session of Everyone is John, which if you've never played it, I highly suggest you do. It's a game.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a game where you take It doesn't actually. Well, there is dice rolling, but there's very little of it. Basically, everyone plays an aspect of the consciousness of this person named John, and they could be any kind of part of any kind of personality they want. And he wakes up in a situation, and then he starts doing stuff. And when he passes out, the players have to bid willpower tokens, which they can earn by doing horrible things. They bid tokens to take control of him, and the goal is to get him to do horrible, horrible things. And so, yeah. Also, Fix a Geek mentions Open Legend, which is Brian Feister's game. He's a good friend of mine, and he made a D20 system, which is sort of like the most rules light D&D you can probably have. It's a game that has character classes and it has like character skills and magic and rolling to attack and stuff, but it's still kind of freeform and lightweight enough that you're not as restricted as you can be. And you can see him sometimes on Encounter Roleplay running everything from like a heavy metal post-apocalypse to traditional fantasy, all using that system. But I think my favorite system is probably and I use the word system very loosely, is probably Big Motherfucking Crab Truckers, which is the most. It's probably a narrative game, I guess, where the only real rule is you keep telling a story until the DM or another player stops believing you, and then they say no fucking way, and then you roll to see who's right. And you're also playing crabs who drive trucks. I mean, that's just... Saving Throw says, we're going to be looking into Open Legend very soon. You definitely should, because it's really cool. I have wanted to do something with it on this channel. I just don't have a day of the week free to do it. But I will eventually, probably. Maybe I'll just get Brian on to run something. Who knows? But yeah, definitely try it out, and say hi to Brian, because he's cool. So... What is I'm very I know of it by reputation and by discussion, but I've never actually played the Fate system. So how does I guess what's the how does that kind of work out in your games? Like, do you is it for like thrilling, like high flying heroics, or do you use it for more like kind of low powered stuff, like maybe Blaze in the Dark or something like that?
Kind of the cool thing about it is that it can be whatever you want it to be. I mean, honestly, it's whatever you want to make it. So essentially, what you have is you have 6 approaches. These are kind of sort of the equivalent of your 6 stats in D&D, but instead of representing something about you. They just represent how you approach a particular conflict or situation. So it'd be clever, sneaky, quick, and forceful, so on. And each of those is represented by a particular die. So a D4 all the way up to D12, but usually D10. And so you have a that you assign those values, and then you have disciplines, and these are skills, your abilities, your knowledge, but in very broad categories. And again, those are represented by die types as well. So basic mechanic of the game is you're going to take an approach die and a discipline die and roll them and add them together. And that's what you do for just about anything you want to do in the game. But then you can modify those by adding more D6s, and really beefing those rolls up, and it can get really gonzo if you want, or it can be just really epic. I kind of describe it like you can go from level 1 to level 20 and back again in the same session. Like you can just do really epic things, but it's all sort of story driven and story justification. The rule is, can I do this? And the answer is yes, if you can justify it, And so, I mean, for me, it's a lot of fun, and you can play off different things that are going on in the scene itself. The scene, everything is really based on these things called aspects, and they're just descriptors. And aspects are the currency of the game. These are things like the dark and stormy night is a situation aspect, and so, if you can somehow utilize the fact that stormy night, you could potentially get an extra bonus to your roll, in however you're going to approach this kind of thing. So your character has aspects, the bad aspects, and you can use those against each other too, which is kind of cool. And I think the ultimate thing, kind of the new addition to this specific gameplay, what makes ours really fun, is we have faith dice and we have demon dice. And faith, they're like fate dice in Fate, where you have a pool of them. In our game, you have 3, and once you spend them, they're gone. You have to sort of re-earn them somehow, but you can use those to add dice to your roll. But every round, you have 3 dice 6 of demon dice, and these are cheater dice, and these essentially allow you to cheat to if you get the roll you wanted, you can pick up 1, 2, or 3 dice 6 and roll those and add them to your roll. But if you pick up any of those dice, the DM gets the same number of dice added to his pool or her pool. And so there's a kind of a consequence here of okay, if I'm going to cheat, then the DM's going to build their pool, and that's going to come back at some point. So it's a lot of give and take.
That's really interesting, because I think one of the thing that is almost sort of lost. Well, I don't want to say lost. It's almost kind of swept under the rug in a lot of role playing games. Is like the players essentially, if they're affecting their system by either their magic powers or their skills or whatever, they tend to use those to overcome situations, but they a lot of times kind of they lose the sight of the fact that anything they can do to change the game, in theory, their enemies should be able to do to them. If they have spells, their enemies should have spells. If they can kind of subvert challenge one way, that can be brought against them. So I like that idea. It's really interesting. One of the things that I think is interesting about you said, when you said like there's kind of wild swings in the power level of characters, like they can go from down here to up here pretty quickly. One of the reasons I like Open Legend as a system is but I haven't actually tried it myself in play. Is that everything you roll, like when you roll damage for your dagger, like if you're doing a 1d4 dagger attack, the dice actually explode, in the sense that if you roll the highest number on the dice, you get to re-roll it and add it to your total. So instead of 4, you could do 7. Or if you happen to roll 2 4s, you get another one, and you could keep going. And I had Brian on, and he was really excited at the fact that, like, in theory, it's possible that if you take a dagger, you could stab it into a dragon and kill him in one shot, because you could keep rolling more and more dice. But I'm like, yeah, in theory, but we all know that the only time you're ever gonna roll a ton of dice is when you're, like, I don't know, attempting to open a door. Like, not when you're doing something thrillingly heroic. We know it's gonna happen at the most boring possible time. But that's, like, I don't know. That's, I think, what's interesting to me is, like, every time I hear of these other systems that either people are making or people have made to fit different niches, it's like, oh, well, they do all these cool things that that D&D doesn't do, or like your basic D20 system doesn't do, that are all designed to cater to delivering a certain experience to the players. And I always think those are really cool. I guess in the ideal world, I'd be able to take all those really cool ideas and find a way to use them in, like, my D&D games, but I know that'll probably never happen, because then it'll get wildly bloated and make no sense anymore.
And I think that there's a lot of different ideas and stuff that kind of carry over. I know there's an action in the game called Create an Advantage, which is you create a new aspect, or you create a new truth in the game or something like that. And it's sort of a party boost kind of situation. And Chris Dubenthaler was really interested in finding a way to use the Create an Advantage action in D&D. How do you, on your turn, do something to help the party or help the next person in line, or whoever it is, really get a bonus or do something, sort of teamwork kind of stuff. And in D&D 5th edition, I know, has really kind of come around on that. And yeah, I think there's a ton of stuff that can carry over. I know that one of the things that my contribution to the Demon Hunters role-playing game was the GM system, where just for mission and adventure, I designed it around my deficiencies in coming up with ideas. So how we come up with story ideas for scripts and that sort of thing. So I've been told I have a table problem, and so I have a lot of random tables that I like to roll on, and by God, they work. So
see, I'm the exact opposite as a DM. I try everything I can to avoid random tables. I go as far as telling people don't write them into your adventures. Like, don't, if you're a DM, don't roll on random tables. The best you can do, like, you can use the table, like, look at the table and find the coolest thing on there, and then you just use that. Like, there's no, I've almost never found a reason to actually roll a die and be like, okay, you get, except, oh, you know what? No, there was that one reason. There was, when we were starting Out of the Abyss, there's a random table of the little item that you have because they're trapped in a prison, and there's a table of, like, junk that like, each player has one item off that table, and it's just, like, one's like a spider in a cage, and the other's, like, I don't know, a shiny spoon or something like that. But when it comes to actually using tables in game, I almost never use them because it's just like, I look at the table, I'm like, okay, number 6 is good, I'll just use that one.
Well, that's a perfectly acceptable way to use a table.
No, I understand. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I talked about this with Mike Shea when he was on. My advice to writers has always been, like, if you're going to write a random table, just write all of those things as encounters anyway. Like, just write out the encounters. It'll be cooler that way. You can use I guess it's just because I'd rather, like, I don't know. I don't roll on a table and be like, oh, you know, you're fighting 12 bugbears now. That's cool, right? Like, that's always kind of been weird to me and a little bit disjointed. Probably because I come from, like, way back when you were doing Temple of Elemental Evil, and I'm like, I need to, as a DM, I need to rewrite this because it is just, like, all of the encounters are just so boring. Because they all felt like kind of random encounters, and I don't know, it was just the players weren't having a good time, so that kind of shaped a lot of how I DM these days. When you're using them, do you use them sort of on the fly to create what's going to happen next, or do you just sort of pick and choose what you think would probably be the coolest thing on them and use them to prep, maybe?
I like improv, so randomness is helpful sometimes for me. It jogs my brain, and inspiration by that sometimes. So, but you know, I presented that section in a way that any DM of any style should be able to find something that will help improve, prepare and create things. So, you know. And for me, I like lists and tables, and I think it helps me know where to go. And if I don't like what I rolled, I do it again.
Yeah, I think that's always, I guess that's probably been where my kind of dislike for tables came from, is because, like, I would roll something and then I'd look, like, it always came back to that thing where it's like, if you can't choose between two options, you flip a coin and it doesn't matter what it lands on because you know which one you wanted it to land on before it does.
Well, the thing, to me, the whole point of random tables is to help you when you don't have an idea. And it's to help guide you. And once you have that, then abandon everything and go with what is interesting to you. And in fact, if you say, oh, well, you know, I rolled on this location table and I'm supposed to go here, but I like this one better, I'm going to go there. You know, you're in control. The dice aren't going to tell you what to do.
Oh yeah, no, I know, and that's kind of that was my point, was like, whenever I use them, I always found myself being like, you know, I'd look down, okay, I'm gonna roll a D100 for a location, and then it comes up on 20, but I'm like, okay, 20 is kind of dumb, but 32 is kind of cool. It's like, okay, but so yeah, I can, you know, I'll just take the idea there, but in my head, you know, I'm always just like, why did I even roll? I should have just looked down the list and then I would have found it, you know. But again, I very rarely use aids like that to sort of improv in a game, only because I think as a DM, my improv is very different than that. If I roll, like, if for example I said, okay, I need an encounter for the players. They're in a swamp. This is the random encounter table for the swamp. let's say I roll a 10 and it says 5 vipers. In the middle of the game, I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna do an encounter with 5 vipers. And then I'd probably scramble to put together something interesting and cinematic and stuff like that. But in my head, it very rarely works out that well. Like I tend to just sort of get stopped up and try and think like, okay, how can I turn this into an interesting encounter? How can I turn this into something that doesn't feel like filler? This and that. When generally, in the middle of a session, I don't work too well with those. If I were doing that in prep, I probably, I definitely get more use out of that. But then again, my prep has long since shifted to a very, very lazy style where I focus more on what kind of progression I want to deliver during the session, like the opening, the middle, and then the cliffhanger, and how I'm going to fill that time. And then, so my prep is very rarely so strict as like, okay, and then we're going to have an encounter with 5 swamp vipers, and then we're going to have an encounter with a bugbear. Like, it just, I very rarely plan those things out in favor of, like, I guess sort of just kind of, it's hard to explain. You'd have to see my notes. My notes are a mess, but I can understand like my flowcharts and stuff. I plan my encounters based on what I want to deliver with the story. That's basically the easiest way I could put it. And very rarely has that ever been like, I need to fit a random encounter here to fill space. I think that's probably why I don't use tables that much. But I do want to. So, Ben, I wanted to ask you a little bit because you've been kind of just chilling. So, what kind of? I know you said you very rarely get a chance to play games these days. What kind of? I mean, is there anything that you like that you have been playing, or you kind of are like continue when you get a chance, or is there anything you really want to get a chance to play?
I've been reading a lot of old, like, first edition games that 30 plus years old lately, just in preparation for the new games. So right now I'm kind of in this whole mode of, wow, we used to put up with so much weird stuff. But if I could be playing a game right now, I'd love. One of my favorite game systems ever is Deliria, by Phil Bricado. Super fun. I'd love to go back and play the Serenity game from Margaret Weiss Productions again. Or frankly, just get back to, if I could do anything, it would be telling epic stories that last for, 3 or 4 years at a time. But that's just not feasible right now. That's kind of the best I can. If I weren't making movies, I'd have time to game, and I have a huge backlog of gaming I'd love to do.
Yeah, wow, my whole Firefox just messed up on me. I'm definitely with, like, my feeling is, like, if possible, like, I love telling big kind of expansive stories, and you're right, I'm a serial collector of adventures and modules and stuff, so I have everything from, like, the old first edition stuff right on up to modern day, and it's I guess you're right that they were pretty weird back then. I mean, if we're like, I don't know which ones you're reading offhand, but like there was some weird stuff back then. But then again, like there's some weird stuff these days. Like, I have I was actually planning a campaign that might be coming up pretty soon, and I wanted to do it entirely within Pathfinder's setting of, oh god, what the hell is it? It's Belgazin? No, they have a country that if you're familiar with Golarion has sort of a theme park feel. Every country is a vastly different setting, and they're all kind of crammed right against each other. And one of them is a setting where these alien robots from space crashed into a desert where nomadic barbarians live. So now this whole country has just become barbarians fighting giant robots. And it sounds completely stupid, but it like, and I think it's just about as B-movie action as you can get. But like, and I used to think it was real dumb, but I've come around to it, and I kind of want to run an adventure in that setting just to see like what I can come up with, because you've got like android people and like robotic machinery and laser guns and stuff like that mixed in with your traditional sort of D&D fantasy, which I think like I definitely want to do something where I can see sort of what it looks like when a party progresses from like a level 1 group of like, you know, a ranger and a fighter and a cleric in a tavern, and then 5 levels later they're firing laser guns and using sonic blasters to take down giant robots. Like, I kind of want to see how that plays out. So I'm considering writing something for that. But yeah, like I love the multiple, like the long stories. That's why I play a group with a game I've been playing with for 3 years, and we're taking so long to tell this story. Like, everyone tells me that they wouldn't be able to stomach the game because the progression is too slow and because it takes too long. And I'm just like, we're just having fun, you know. We're just we're getting into the characters. We're messing around, and you know, yeah, it takes a while to level. Who cares?
So one of the gags in the new Gamers series is that this new group has discovered an old notebook of the original campus group of gamers who disappeared 15 years ago. And I kind of had this moment of realizing, well, wait a second, why build this prop? I still have a notebook with my entire epic campaign that I ran for 4 years in high school.
Yeah.
So so that's kind of my throwback to those really long campaigns that just continue forever. And a way to kind of integrate that history into the show.
Yeah, it's I mean, we're I definitely hear a lot of people that are much more long in the tooth than I am, talking about like their campaigns that they've been playing for, you know, since back in the day. Oh. And I was hanging out with Matt Mercer, and someone sent us a link of there was a story about a campaign that had been going on for like 35 years with the same players and stuff. And I'm like, my first thought was, I seriously hope they're not like, I hope they weren't meeting every week, because there's no way that you can keep a 35-year campaign going with the same players every single week. Like, as a DM, I'd have run out of content. I'd have exhausted all of the interesting ideas in the first few years, and then after that, I don't know, I'd probably just be stealing plots from movies and hoping no one noticed.
One of the things that we do both with film and at least on my end with gaming is, you know, we're all about the mass story. You know, laying the seeds in the first episode. We're doing this with the new Strowlers pilot as well. That won't pay off until the final episode of the series. You know, how do we create an arc where each piece leads to the next one? Sometimes in very unexpected ways, but where the payoff is, you know, for sticking with it the whole time, is so rewarding because the story was planned, the beats of it from the very beginning.
Yeah, I think that's probably how every good campaign should be structured. And again, I talk with a lot of people about, a lot of DMs about running their games, and you know, how they do it and what their tact is. But it's, you know, one of the things I always come back to is, I love, I guess, like you said, I love story payoff. Like, I love when you set up a moment, even if it's just as simple as like an NPC coming back into the fold after being like out of the scene for a while. Like, just I love the payoff that is involved in there when the players are like, I remember that guy. You know, it's right. I think as a storyteller, it's a very good feeling because as whenever you can bring those things back together and make them feel natural, and the audience has a reaction to it, that you're probably doing something right, at least with that particular aspect.
Yeah.
Sorry, someone. So we're kind of rolling over into the second hour of the show, and obviously, as anyone who is hanging out with or who has hung out with us before knows, obviously the second half I like to. No, I don't want to do that. The second half I like to take questions from people in chat. Just anything what you'd like to talk about. If you guys want to talk about get some more information on the Gamers series or any of the other movies that Dead Gentleman and Zombie Orpheus have put out, Journey Quest or their other stuff, or you just want to talk D&D with us, let me !fuzzy in chat. So remember, feel free to shoot us all of those questions. I also have a thing that I have to find. Because people have sent me a bunch of questions and I have saved them, and I have to look at it. Here we are. So while we're seeing if anyone has any questions in chat, I'm going to try and find one here that may be worthwhile. Okay, so this was a question that I was sent by Serene Lily on Twitter, and she asked, what is a good way to get into groups? I don't really have anyone in real life that I can connect with, and all my friends are already in campaigns, so I can't join. Do you guys have it? So what kind of do you guys have any experience kind of joining new groups, or like maybe outside of kind of the people, or interacting with people outside of the people that you've known forever?
A good game store can really do that for you. I would also recommend checking out something like Roll20.net, where you can meet up with and find groups on there. And it might take some vetting and some time, but that certainly is an option as well.
I found there's some Facebook groups, and you can do that search sort of locally as well, and you can kind of connect with. But I'm going to second Ben on the local game store kind of thing. We've got one here in Bellingham, and they're running all kinds of games all the time, and it sounds like it's pretty easy to sort of or whatever, and you can really meet a lot of new people and get some new gaming in your life. That's all I know.
I'm actually planning on taking that advice myself this Thursday night. I'm gonna head down.
Nice.
I moved recently. I'm gonna head down to the local game store for open game night and see who's there and what's going on.
Yeah.
And I think it's also worth mentioning, though, that some game stores are going to be really incredible, welcoming places, and others will be places that harassment or abuse. And if you go into a store and you don't get a good feeling of it, or like you're not welcome there, it's also worth listening to that feeling. There's no point in going gaming somewhere that's going to exclude you for whatever reason. So keep your eyes open and don't feel like you have to force yourself to exist in a place that.
Yeah, I had actually, I think all of those are good points. I forget who I was talking about it with, but I was talking about it with someone, and we were talking about a very similar topic, and I suggested Roll20 because I have a lot of experience there, and they suggested going down to your local game store. And the only reason that I said the only reason I suggest Roll20 probably as your first choice rather than just packing, getting dressed and going to the game stores. One, you don't actually have to get dressed to play on Roll20, but two, to me at least, and this may be completely different with other people, but to me at least, actually kind of going down to a hobby store or to like a Frogstar World suggested meetup, where I know I get emails all the time from like meetup groups saying like, do you want to go to D&D at the Strategist tonight?
Right.
You could totally go to those, and I'm sure they're fantastic. I've never actually been to any of those nights because most of them are too far away, and I just don't have the time, but you totally could, and I'm not knocking them at all. Though to me, it seems like actually going down to a game store is just a little bit of personal investment, in the sense that like you may not actually know if it's, you know, what you said. You could go to a store and you could find like everyone there is there kind of in their own little clique, and they don't really, you know, they're maybe a little bit not welcoming to newcomers. I'm not saying they will be, but it's always kind of a small possibility. Roll20 has been great. I also love my local game store. I haven't played Warhammer there in a while, but I used to play Warhammer 40k there, and I know there were a lot of great groups. So if you have a local game store, go there. If you're more of an in-person type, if you like in-person stuff, and you are not as weird and shy and socially awkward as me, go there and maybe see, ask the people running, say, do you have any regular D&D groups? Do you do Adventurers League or other organized play stuff? And otherwise, Roll20 is a great way. You can hang out there. I know the creators; they're cool guys, and the community has been great so far. I've actually played like all of my streaming games, and all the 3-year game that I've been playing in is a group I found on Roll20. And, we've been playing together forever now, and I really couldn't imagine not playing with those guys. Shadzar asked in chat, he says, and this is actually something that I was interested in only because, not only because, but it was something I was interested in because I see a lot of these sort of gaming-related shows popping up, both, like the Journey Quest series, the Gamers movies, and now with shows like Experience Points, Natural 20, and other shows that are about playing D&D and stuff, and are all really well done and really funny. Do you find gamers to play in your movies, or do you find actors to play gamers in your movies?
Yes.
I mean, actors first, but they oftentimes accept these roles because they know the subject matter.
Or audition for us because they're actors who game.
Well, that's what I...
Yeah. Or in some cases, they come in and then start gaming because of us, and then have been doing it for the last 10 years.
Right.
So, okay, so I guess I've talked to him a couple times, but Brian, the guy who plays yes, like him and the rest of the group are they like did they come to you as actors, or did they come to you as like, did you have to teach them how to be gamers, essentially?
They came to us as actors, and most of them had currently gaming. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of...
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, we want you to walk in to an audition and blow us away and prove that you are the very best person for the part. And generally speaking, it's going to be a trained actor with experience who's going to pull that off. Not always, but typically. And and then it comes down to looking at, how does the group fit together? What are their are these believable relationships? Can we see these people together? And do they feel authentic? One of the comments I get about our movies is, these people are too pretty to be gamers. And
is that really a thing that you've gotten? Because I don't know, the cast always looked like pretty average dudes.
We especially got that about the Dark Dungeons movie,
which was which was hilarious, by the way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But part of that is sadly, a lot of the actors who get enough work to become experienced,
Mm-hmm.
have a certain degree of a certain amount of photogenic quality and charisma to them. Um, so there's a little bit of a catch-22 there. At the same time, we also, part of the job of the hair, makeup, wardrobe teams is to make people look good.
So I guess I have a sub question that Shadzar didn't ask, but I'm kind of interested. So the reason that I liked I liked the Gamers 2 so much is because obviously you had a lot of comedy in there that was really funny, but the out I guess you could say the out of character stuff, like the stuff that wasn't when they were dressing up in costumes and actually pretending to be their characters, but when they were actually pretending to be people around the table, the sort of the dialogue and the interaction in a lot of ways felt, really natural. Were all those people like? Did you literally just put them together and say like, here's a D&D rule book, play together for a while, and then you can just put that on screen?
Oh,
We have a thing called a script, and it has words that they say.
No, I understand, but I'm just saying like it was. There's obviously like when you have a script, it can sometimes the stuff can feel very written, like it can feel like it was sort of written, maybe not necessarily natural. I'm saying a lot of the dialogue was very very natural, which is what made it a lot more believable, which I thought was it made you feel like those guys had a dynamic together, as if they had been gaming for a while.
it's
I mean, that's all part of casting,
Yeah.
and that's part of the direction.
and
And
it's the script writing. If it feels natural, then that means that we're doing our job.
I mean, that script, more than I think any other project we've done, went through something. So
So many drafts.
yeah, it was insane. And so, I mean, it should feel we worked hard on it.
And I guess addendum question by Frogstar World. He says, did Nathan Rice have any experience as a DM before playing Lodge?
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
He is DM'd for, and he is nothing like Lodge.
In what way?
In the way that he DMs, Lodge is more caring and story driven, I would say. And Nathan is the rules lawyer.
Yeah.
Nathan is.
Nathan is
I
like
mean, and the
that.
way he DMs really well. His games are fun, but he's obsessive, and it's charming.
Did he give you
Inspiration.
did he give you shit over that? Oh god, what was that one scene with the goblins? Like, did he give you shit over that scene? With the feats that didn't really exist and stuff like that.
Oh well,
He helped develop that scene.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of people on the internet have written like rants about how that's not how it works. Like none of those are real things, except I think improved initiative.
Well,
but...
and that's the thing about when you make a movie is that you also have to make it
Yeah.
so that people who know nothing about what you're doing, that it makes sense. And so we have essentially what and created technobabble, but there's some authenticity to what it is that we needed to do, and we on purpose, because comedy and created a bunch of broken stuff and made it not work exactly the way. Because if you follow the rules exactly how things go and put it on screen, it's not as fun.
Yeah, no, I was specifically referencing the fact that I've seen a lot of people, like I said, you write a lot of opinions about that that joke in particular, and like, oh, that's not how it works. Those aren't real. Those aren't the rules. So when you said he's kind of a strict rules lawyer, I thought it'd be fun. He might be one of those guys. I'll get to Shadzar's
If it wasn't a movie, then yes.
Yeah.
If it was something that somebody handed to him that he was going to run or had to play, he would be all over that. And he would be absolutely breaking it down and criticizing it and that sort of thing. But but it's a movie, so it's a little bit different.
Encounter Mitch, he says, so the Gamers came out a number of years ago, and the market for indie funding has changed dramatically since then. What are your thoughts on Kickstarters or other collaborative financial models for creative projects? I think we actually know the answer to this, though.
Sort of. I mean, Kickstarter is evolving and changing every time we do it, and we have to time uh, and really strategize and think about, is this going to work, and how long is this going to continue to work, and you how much funding can we actually do, and what goes into that. There's a lot of math involved in that regard, but I think Kickstarter, it has been a super huge tool for us over the years. I think it's obvious. I mean, we've raised over $1 million between both companies for all of our different projects, and Kickstarter's done pretty well from us in that regard.
Now imagine what we raise $1 million for one project.
For one project, I mean, that's kind of the next thing that we're going here, is we're looking at more ways to get more eyeballs, and to raise the stakes, and to normalize how we pay for our productions, and how much everybody gets paid, and that paid, I think that's the biggest thing that's been difficult as we evolve over the years, is the sticker shock that some people have when they go, "Oh my God, why is this so much money when the project you did before was like a tenth of that?" And it's like, well, we can't do it like that anymore. We all have jobs and day jobs and things that we need to do, and if we're not doing those, then we're taking time off, and that needs to be compensated. And other people's, this is their living. This is what they do to pay rent or the mortgage or groceries and that sort of thing. And so, the days of doing this just for the fun of it, because we had loads of time on our hands, are gone. And it's better quality when you can get people that know what they're doing, and pay them. And our goal is to to get regular income funding through Patreon, through sales, Kickstarters, if they're still working. Maybe there's a new model coming out, and we'll be looking at that. Subscription has always been kind of the goal for us. I know that's been Ben's vision, to get to sort of subscriber level content. There's just a ton of things, and we're always paying attention to that.
I'm having trouble. All right, I was having trouble getting my mic. I gotta check this button. This mute button does not cooperate. But I think you're right. And Mitch said it too. That the funding model, the landscape is always changing. Like, people are, a few years ago, not everyone had a Kickstarter. Now everyone has a Kickstarter for almost everything. It's interesting that a lot of hobbies, gaming included, has become one of those places where independent projects can actually flourish in a lot of ways, specifically because there's no stigma against saying, like, hey, I'm creating this thing, but if you want to have this at your table, or you want to see this done, like, you can have a hand in that. It's allowing a lot of stuff to get developed, but at the same time, you're right, there's always that push to, like, okay, we did this for this much money, we need, in order to make everyone expects the next one to be better, so we need to kind of up the game a little bit. How do you reach people? How do you convince people to to keep being a participant? It's interesting. Everyone, I feel like almost everyone is a creator these days. Everyone has a Patreon, everyone has a Kickstarter, and I don't know. I mean, is that seems to be the thing, the way that we're going now.
I think it comes down to, we have to create content that people want.
Yeah.
If we tell stories that people love and want to see more of, then they will fund our shows. And if we stop telling those,
Yeah, it's always and again, you guys, I don't know if you've ever considered it, but you guys seem to have gone the same way that CD Projekt did. They're a video game developer, and their theory was like this was back, 8-9 years ago when every game company in the world was trying to combat piracy, and they're just like, we don't care that much about it. We just, as long as we put something out that's good, people will pay for it. You provide a good value, whether that means sticking a couple extra things in the box, for them or making it whatever, and then people will support it, because people like getting a good value. And Mitch says thanks. Was kind of an open-ended question, but he kind of wants to hear from people from the other end of Kickstarter to sort of reflect on its evolution. Because, like I said, a lot of I guess a lot of us, I tell people this all the time, if I had more disposable income, I would probably be supporting a lot more Kickstarters and a lot more Patreons and stuff than I do. But it's like, I think a lot of other people have very little disposable income, so it's like the things that we do end up supporting have to be really, really good in order to kind of, to win that support, because it's like I could do this or I could do this, but yeah, I'm definitely like, I'm interested to see, like, I like seeing all the stuff that Kickstarter has spawned. Like I said, Natural 20 was a series that came out. Experience Points was, both were, off the top of my head, both were kickstarted series, and they came out and they turned out to be great. Like, they're hilarious, they're interesting to watch, and so I'm glad that people have this platform that they can kind of they can do things now, and they can get things made. Shadzar, he says, or he was saying a bunch of things about this specifically. I'll try and cut it down. He says, would you find Twitch as a way to scout out new people to try for parts from live streams and stuff? Not counting people like Matt Mercer, who are already professional actors.
Probably not. And a lot of that is any time that we publicly announce casting for a project, we literally can't keep up with the number of people who contact us.
Right.
And also, I mean, I'm going to be really blunt here. One of the criticisms, and a really valid criticism, that we've heard about our work over the years is that we haven't done enough to really represent all of the different people who game. Our first film, The Gamers, was, 5 white guys sitting around a table. And there's nothing wrong with that, and that's who we were. But, people of kind of every size, shape, age, color, gender, sexual orientation, and so forth, love the hobby, are gamers. And so, we're really putting a whole lot of work right now into reaching out very specifically to actors who can help us represent that, the theme that gaming is for everyone, and that visually with who we're putting on the screen. So
we have a specific creative need now and a responsibility because of where we are now. I mean, when we started, we just grabbed our friends and did without a second thought, and now we've been at this for a long time, and it's time to make some creative choices, and representation is hugely important for us. And we think that, I mean, that's just something that we always think about. And so we have criteria now of what we are looking for on particular projects. And we would prefer to go through normal channels rather than having a slog of information to try and read through. We just don't have that.
To cover that a little more, I was talking with Carol Roscoe a few days ago. She plays Daphne and Joanna, depending on which world you're in. And she was telling me a story about how this father was talking to her about his daughter, his 9-year-old daughter, seeing Darkness Rising, becoming obsessed with gaming, and how that was the first time he'd really been able to find a way to connect with his kid in a meaningful way, and how much it meant that her being able to look on the screen and see Carol's character and be inspired by that and say, I could do this too, and the difference that it made for their relationship and for their family. And you know, you hear stories like that, and it really kind of drives home what a responsibility it is to us to make sure that our films kind of that theme, that any kid can look at the screen and see someone who is connected to their identity in some way. And I mean that's like the whole thing with gamers. The thing that people responded to with the original film was, you got it right. You finally expressed what it is that we love about this hobby. You're speaking to our experience, and we're now trying to speak to that experience in a broader way.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, I need to interrupt because I actually have to go and DM my game tonight, and so I'm at my stopping point. But I had a lot of fun, and have fun storming the castle.
Yeah, that's fine. I just will get you a shout out in chat. While you're kind of bouncing out of here, do you want to before you go? Do you want to give a quick shout out, like a plug? Tell people in chat where they might be able to find you and or the rest of the Dead Gentleman stuff on the internet, and what they might be looking forward to with that.
Yeah, sure. You can find us. We've got Dead Gentleman on YouTube. There's at Dead Gentleman on Twitter. At Zombie Orpheus on Twitter. You can find both Zombie Orpheus and Dead Gentleman on Facebook. Just facebook.com/Dead Gentleman or Zombie Orpheus. We're there. We've got the patreon.com/Zombie Orpheus.
And that is the best way
That's
to get ongoing content. If
That's
you like
right.
more of what we're doing, become a Patreon supporter. That is why we're able to continue and why we still exist.
That's right. So do that. You get regular updates. You're plugged in. You know what's going on. You're really an insider at that point. And as little, we really believe on tiny buy-in to help us out and to really even get the content early and stuff. So that's it. Really, I would plug deadgentleman.com, but I never update it.
And you can get the digital downloads at watchthegamers.com.
That's right.
Yeah, we'll throw those links in chat at the end of the episode, but definitely go check those out, guys. And a big thanks to Don for hanging out with us. Thanks a lot, man. It's been great having you.
Thanks, guys. I'm
Have
gonna go
fun.
kill some players now.
Oh yeah,
Literally.
definitely. Tell us about it later.
Will do.
All right, now let me just recrop this. But while I am doing that, I should have some elevator music playing, which I don't. I actually, that's a lie. I don't have any elevator music. But let me. No, wrong thing. Sorry, guys. There we go. Okay, I just gotta crop Ben's picture. And while I'm doing that, I guess I'll shoot Ben a question that Frogstar World has asked. He was saying, coming up as an independent studio, are there any complications that have arisen due to organizations like the Screen Actors Guild and such?
Always.
Are they? Do you seriously get shit from them?
It's tough because we are absolutely union supporters, and the value of unions, like the value of the Screen Actors Guild, the value of IATSE, the value of all of them is that they allow their members to collectively bargain to protect their basic rights and health and safety on set. And film industry is notorious for abusing their cast and crew. So let me just negatively about working with SAG, let me first preface it by saying, thank goodness they exist. If they did not maintain standards, unethical producers, directors, assistant directors, and so forth would be abusing people in ways that are just unconscious, just not okay at all. Having said that, um, yeah, SAG doesn't know what to make of us, especially our Creative Commons stuff, and we just do the best that we can on every show to come up with solutions that work for them, that work for our SAG members, and that work for our non-SAG members. We work under the new media agreement, which is still a fairly new agreement that's in flux. And if there were a better, cleaner, more modern way to do what we do, and to work and to help modern Screen Actors Guild and what they do in a way that continues to protect their members and to protect their members' interests, I would be all for it, because right now it's a lot of people who all mean very well, us and them, trying to hack through solutions using tools and contracts that are vastly outdated.
Yeah, I think that's kind of reflective of a lot of things that are going on these days, because in sort of this internet 2.0 age, like where, you know, it seems like the guild, like the thing, like the group organizations like that and the unions and stuff, in a lot of ways are kind of working on principles that have been surpassed by the market. Like, they weren't really set up to deal. You're right. They weren't set up to deal with open source. Like, oh, we're just gonna give our stuff away for free. You know, like that's not a thing that peak contracts are generally set up for.
Well, and SAG's position was basically, if you give stuff away for free and allow commercial derivatives after you for all the residuals due on any other person who monetizes what you do.
Yeah,
which is insane.
Yeah. Again, it's kind of weird, but so I guess the answer to Frogstar's question is, yes, there are complications, and it's a lot of legalese that I don't understand much of.
Yeah.
Shadowner in chat says hi Ben, in caps. So.
I'm trying to remember whose name that is in real life. It'll come to me.
All right, and so unless you got please throw your questions in chat. We're hanging out here for a little bit more. I am scrolling through these questions I have because so Civilized Storm sent me a question. He says, "Do you play any video games or just tabletop board games?"
You know, I just successfully beat Portal 2 for the first time today.
That was a good game. I remember J.K. Simmons fondly.
So, and I think I'm at about the 6-month mark, so I might spend another few hours playing Skyrim sometime in the next week. I'm looking forward to getting more than 11 or 12 hours into that game.
Yeah, it's been ever since I started the full-time job and I've been doing the streaming thing. It's been very hard to find any time to play video games these days. Like, I want to get all these new ones that are coming out, but I know that I will have no time. Like, if I do end up playing them, it will just cut into my writing time. Like, that I have to prep all my D&D stuff, and it's like, yeah, no, I can't let people down like that.
Well, and that's exactly it's one of the challenges about being a media creator. Because it's a constant balance between sitting back and letting something entertain me versus I have more stories to tell and more creative projects to do than I will accomplish in my lifetime. So it's like every time I sit down and passively engage with something, it's time that, that's another project I'll never get to do. So and yes, I love sitting down to play a video game occasionally or watch a movie, but like for me, it was Final Fantasy X. I looked at the screen. I was in the process of trying to complete absolutely every side quest and every upgrade before defeating the big boss, realized I'd put 90 hours into this, was nowhere near finishing, and at that point stopped playing video games seriously.
Yeah, I mean,
Because that
th-
90 hours, is tens of thousands of words I could have written.
I don't think like it's weird because I've always been an artist, but I've always been a really lazy one. Which is probably why I left the commercial art industry, just because I was way too lazy to bother with the constant like on and off cycle of finding new work every time a contract ended.
Hmm.
But yeah, like that was back in the day. I was working as a chef, and I was coming home. I would just come home and I'd put like all night into a game like Path of Exile or World of Warcraft or something, like lots and lots of hours. And then I just sort of, I'd play D&D maybe once a week, whatever. It wouldn't really cut into my time. And then I started streaming, and I'm like, now I do so much stuff. Like, I'm writing, I work, I come home, I write, and I prepare for a stream, or I'm making a map to prepare for something, or I'm helping with someone else's thing. And it's like, I was recently reminded because someone was like, "Hey man, you should totally join us for the new Warcraft expansion." I'm like, I would love to. I will never get a chance to play it. Like, I have no free time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough because in my heart I really want to be playing video games. Shadowner says, "Yes, I'm on Patreon and Kickstarter, and the community's backing productions." So
Yeah.
cool. Big Jane jumped into chat. He says, "What has your experience been on Twitch, and what value do you see in it as a marketing tool?" I don't know if that's directed to Ben over here or to me, but I don't know. Ben, do you have any interaction with like live streaming and stuff like that?
Uh, we will be making some announcements about new programs and Twitch in the upcoming months, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay, cool. Big Jane says, "I am a lady." Oh, sorry. That's it. I only see the text. There's very little context clue there. As for I feel like I will throw an opinion on this question. How do I feel on Twitch as a marketing tool? I think it's one of the biggest growing. It's probably the biggest growth market in the role playing game hobby right now. With the success of things like Critical Role, and now Wizards has their own proprietary game. Actually, they have two. With basically everyone is getting into the D&D streaming game now. Everyone who has a website that is tangentially nerdy, everyone who has a YouTube channel that's remotely popular, they're all getting into the Twitch streaming thing, specifically with D&D now. And I think it's probably, which is why I say, because of the money that is available in support from fans, and because of the audience, because the audience that wants to consume that content, I think it's probably the biggest growth market right in role playing games right now. I don't know how bigger companies are reacting to that. Like, I was talking with a friend of mine a long time ago about what's going to happen when big actual marketing dollars starts getting put into like D&D shows. I don't know what that's going to look like. I'm interested to see it, but I also think it's going to kind of might take it kind of to a really weird place.
I think each kind of new platform, we get the early adopters, and then eventually it gets colonized by the companies who have the advertising dollars to and the production dollars to dominate the market. So, it's trying to stay one step ahead of the uh, big media gentrification of our independent spaces.
Do you think, like, kind of like we now have nearly 25,000 people tuning in every Thursday to watch a show like Critical Role, do you think we're going to see, maybe give it a couple years, we'll see like someone spending a ton of money to put on productions like that in stadiums like they're doing with games like Dota right now, like drawing
No,
thousands of people to watch?
no idea, but that would be pretty awesome.
I mean,
Yeah.
in theory, it would be awesome, but it seems like there's also the huge potential for that to turn horrible real quick. Because, I don't know. In my head, it's like, oh, I'm watching a game of D&D that someone spent $2 million to put on.
Yeah. Well, to a certain extent, like, I do a lot of Kickstarter consulting, and I promise I'm going to connect this in. And one of the things that I kind of have to address with people with that is they look at Kickstarter and say, here's this platform where people are going to give me money. That's fantastic. And then I have to remind them, Kickstarter is a tool. It's not just something where strangers are going to come out of nowhere and fund all, whatever half-assed stream you have. And the tool is always less important than the community. So yeah, so I'm far more interested ultimately in saying, all right, how are we connecting our community of fans together, our community of gamers? Tools are right in this moment to reach them in ways that are entertaining and fun and that allow us to do cool stuff together. And whether that's what, so for me at this point, it's less about the platform than that.
Yeah, sorry. You're definitely right. I was just reading Shadzar's response, but yeah, I mean, it's we're in a place where again, I forget who I had mentioned this with, but it's like, oh, I talked about this with Mike Merles. That's right, because he wrote a post recently about how how important, how much the hobby has changed with kind of this media that's available. And it's like, if you had told me, I don't know about you, if you had told me when I was a kid, when someone handed me my first D&D rule book, that it's like, okay, here's a rule book, and also one day thousands and thousands of people are gonna tune in to watch, some people play the game that you and your friends play, when you hang out at summer camp. Like, if you had told me that when I was like 13, I'd be like, that's retarded. Like, that's ridiculous. It makes no sense.
You know what Twitch game I would pay ridiculous amounts of money to see?
I'm assuming not Dota.
I would happily pay a monthly subscription just to watch the kids from Stranger Things play D&D.
We've talked about that show a few times on here, and it's like, I always come back to, I think my favorite part about that was the child actors. Like, they were much better than I think they had any right to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't know. See, this thing is, I don't know if I'd pay money. I'd definitely watch that on YouTube. But then again, I don't have that much money to pay, so it's like, I prefer it was delivered to me on YouTube. If I had to pay a subscription to see that, I'd be like, okay, I guess I'm just gonna miss it.
Yeah. No. Well, and that's always the calculus, and that's also part of why we put our stuff on YouTube for free.
Mm-hmm.
Because our audience is bigger than, if our audience were only the people who could pay, we'd be missing out on a lot of what makes a community amazing. Yeah,
but also, I mean, so when you're building a community, like, if you're gonna put if you're saying, like, my audience, I have a disc, it's my movie, and you can buy it for $15, and then your audience is only the people with $15 to spend on that movie, and the desire to see it, then you're essentially you're not engaging with that person who maybe only has $5 but still wants to support your work.
Yeah, but in 2 or 3 years, that person will have found their dream job that they've been working toward. They'll be out of school, they'll be doing better, and they'll turn around and make a big contribution to the next Kickstarter campaign.
Yeah, true. And also, but I'm saying also, like, if someone says, I don't have $15 to buy this, but I do have $5 and I do want to support you, like,
right.
What do you if you don't have a way for them to be engaged, when it's just, they're gonna say, okay, I have no way to support this person, I'm just gonna take my $5 and go somewhere else.
Yep.
Yep. But if you give them that out, they're now part of your community. There's someone that you can engage with, and you're right. Hopefully, they will they will kind of achieve their dreams and then come back and say like, hey, I loved these guys back when I was a kid, you know.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna support them even better.
Yeah.
Big Jane says, does Ben ever think he could be a successful streamer?
Like a live streamer?
I assume so. I assume that's what the question means, because we were talking about Twitch.
I've really tried to. I'm gonna have to take this. No, I can ignore this phone call. I'm gonna have to go shortly.
It's fine. We're
I
about
really
wrapping
try to
up in a
keep.
couple
I
minutes.
really
anyway.
try to keep myself in behind the camera instead of in front of the camera.
I getcha.
All right, just a second. I'll be right back.
All right. Oh no, we got an emergency phone call, but we are going to be wrapping up here in just a second, or in a couple minutes, I mean, because we are coming up on 10 o'clock. But yeah, so it looks like they said that Big Jane says it's me on the phone. Please pick up. They're apparently calling you to ask you to become a streamer. So okay, so we got a couple more minutes here. I guess before we go, is there anything like so we talked a little bit about the gamer series that you guys just successfully funded. Do you guys have you started production on that? Do you have any idea when the first episodes might be delivered?
So we'll be shooting that the big kind of 45-minute episode in September, October, funded by Kickstarter and by the ongoing Patreon. And then based on those episodes will then go out to the Kickstarter and Patreon backers first, then they'll head out to YouTube and so forth. And then following that, when we release is really kind of going to depend on what kind of Patreon option we get. You know, our long-term goal is that we have enough monthly support for a piece. The value of the Patreon is that it allows us to project future income and to spend our money more efficiently. Stay in production on an ongoing basis rather than kind of this big, let's do a big thing and then we're silent for 6 months, and then a big thing and silent for 6 months. So a lot of it is going to really depend on how the fan support that we receive evolves and how much of it we get.
And I guess a question that just a last question from me. Do you have any plans deep in the works for a Gamers 4?
Yes. This series is very, very intentionally setting up the rest of the pieces for Gamers 4 and kind of snipping off the loose threads that we don't want when we do Gamers 4, and basically getting us ready for the film that will complete the story arc that began with the original Gamers back in 2002.
So it's like 5 movies and a series total?
Something like that.
Yeah, give or take some extra stuff?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is we're not ready to make Gamers 4 at this point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had a window a couple of years ago where we could have potentially pulled it off. That window passed. So I don't know realistically when it's going to happen. So we basically had the choice of, well, we could either we could either make nothing, or we could make this awesome show that will make Gamers 4 even better, and will make Gamers 4 even more focused on that core story we'll want to tell.
That's awesome. I think everyone is definitely looking forward to that. I know I am, because if you guys have been hanging out with us, by the way, thank you so much. I've been hanging out with Mr. Ben Dobyns, one of the producers from Zombie Orpheus Productions, creators of the Gamers movies and the new Kickstarter-funded Gamers show. If you have not watched them, I highly suggest you go check out their movies on YouTube. We'll throw some links to that in a bit. But we're kind of coming up on 10 o'clock, so we're gonna wrap up here in a little bit. I do want to thank so much Ben, and obviously Don, who couldn't be here for the entire duration of the show. But thank you guys both for coming and hanging out. Thank you for talking to us and chatting with fans and viewers and stuff like that. It's definitely been productive. It's been a good time. Before we kind of wrap things up, and actually, we'll do it in the reverse order. So, Ben, why don't you tell everyone, just like Don did, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you on the internet, what they can kind of look forward to, and I will drop those links in chat for you.
Awesome. Facebook.com/Zombie Orpheus. Search for Zombie Orpheus or Dead Gentleman on YouTube. Become a patron on our Patreon campaign. Even $1 a month makes a difference, and that will get you first access to everything and the ability to really connect with what's going on. We have Gamers coming up. We have Journey Quest Season 3 coming up. We have our new Strowlers pilot coming up. That's in post. We also shot a Strowlers short film in July as a test of traveling elsewhere in the world with a micro crew to shoot on amazing locations. We have 2 Gamers Live shows that we recorded with multiple cameras at Gen Con that we'll be releasing first to our Patreon backers and then to the public. We have our Hat Trick Pony comedy improv troupe creating content. We're creating a new Nodwick comic strip with Aaron Williams featuring Nodwick stuck in the Shadow's lair. So there's just a ton of cool stuff going on right now, and we'd love to have you join our community. It's we get to do what we do because of the fans, because of the people who support us, and they're some of the nicest, most welcoming, awesome people in the world, and it's an honor to be producing for them.
Yeah, absolutely. All of those links are in chat. So go check them out. You've got the Facebook link as well as the Twitter for Dead Gentleman and Zombie Orpheus, and also I threw in the list for the first episode, or the playlist for the first episode of Journey Quest, which should take you to all the rest of their episodes too. You guys should definitely watch that. And thank you so much, Big Jane, for following, and welcome to the madness, my friend, as Dice Thulu embraces us all with his cold tentacles. We're gonna before we do start wrapping things up, I want to go through some quick announcements. As always, you guys know that we have that this is the Exploding Dice channel, so we have live D&D every Sunday for Exploding Dice Plays Jade Regent. You can see that in the schedule down below. You can also see the schedule for when I play both Outlanders and Call of Cthulhu. One is a 5th edition D&D game, the other is Call of Cthulhu 7th edition on Encounter Roleplays Twitch, so you should go check those out. Tuesday, as Dice Thulu has been reminding you, every Tuesday I am here live with Fuzzy Dice talking to awesome guests like Ben and Don and other cool people. I hear you asking, what other cool people? Well, let me check my calendar, because next week is the 30th, right? Yes, next week is the 30th, and if you guys come here at 8 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday the 30th, you will see me hanging out with both Shauna Germain and Monty Cook, the developers and creators from Monty Cook Games, talking about their new Invisible Sun RPG. But also, more importantly, you will see me asking Monty all kinds of things about Ptalis, which is a giant setting book that he published years ago that no one remembers except me. I read through the whole thing, and I always wanted to run a game there, but I never got a chance.
Do you know about the competition they had with that RPG at Gen Con?
No, I don't.
So, I mean, it's huge. It's massive, right?
Yes, it's big.
And so they would do giveaways at their booth, and whoever could hold this RPG out straight arm for long would win a booth. Crowded the aisles, just people watching and cheering on for these people who are desperate and sweating and trying to hold on to this massive brick of a book.
It is. I don't think I ever had the hardcover version, but I have the PDF version, and it's huge. It's something like 500 pages. It's ridiculous, and it's great. It's the biggest city, well, not the biggest city, but it's one of the biggest cities you'll ever see mapped in D&D, and he has an entire source book with every building is like, I swear, is statted out and has an NPC related to it. It's huge. So I'll be talking about a lot of that. And also following that...
Make sure that you ask him about his cameo appearance in Journey Quest as well.
Oh, you know who else? Who else has a cameo appearance that I didn't even know this was him until I saw it recently? The guy at Monte Hook who responded to my email is Sean K. Reynolds.
Ah,
And he was in the Gamers too.
I don't know if you're still there.
Yeah, I'm here.
I might have, yeah. No, Sean was Creepy Knife Guy in Darkness Rising, and he also has a large role in our film that's coming out later this fall, Attacking the Darkness.
That's cool, man. Yeah, so definitely you want to be here for that. Also, September 1st, on Thursday, I have an exclusive broadcast of an episode of Experience Points show. We're getting it before it debuts on Thursdays. All kinds of other stuff coming, and the only way that you can keep up with all of it is if you hit that follow button, and also you check out our social media page, which is just twitter.com/Askren. If you guys have not been there, we are giving away 4 seats in a one-shot game that is going to be DM'd on this channel. That is to celebrate 1,000 followers on Twitter. So definitely go check that out. Enter, win one of those seats for yourself, and it's going to be a great time. That is all my announcements. So as always, thank you, Ben. Thank you, Don, for hanging out, and thank you to everyone in chat who has chilled with us. You guys are awesome. I hope we will see you all next week. But until then, try not to let Dice Thulu get his tentacles on you, because he gets a little bit handsy. So we'll see you guys all next week. Who is DMing? That'd be me. I'm DMing. I'm always the DM. I'm forever a DM. Except when I'm on Encounter Roleplay. They let me play. So we'll see you guys next week. Bye from me, and bye from everyone Exploding Dice. Take care, guys.
Thanks so much. That was a lot of fun.